The kingdom of Lyrathia had never forgotten Princess Elira. She was the youngest daughter of Queen Erilyn, the brilliant and fair ruler who had led the kingdom through years of peace and prosperity. Elira had vanished when she was only 16, during an expedition beyond the western cliffs, a daring journey she insisted would show her the hidden lands outside the kingdom. One day she had left and no trace of her had ever returned. Years had passed. The queen aged gracefully, but the loss of her daughter was a wound that never healed. Courtiers whispered their fears, servants looked to the palace gates with uncertain hope, and the streets of Lyrathia were full of stories about the princess who might still be alive. Some said she had been taken by spirits of the mountains. Others insisted she had found a secret city where time moved differently. But no one truly knew the truth. On a bright morning, when the sun painted golden patterns across the palace walls, a distant figure appeared at the main gates. At first, the guards thought it was a traveler or a merchant from the outer lands. But as the figure approached, the royal heralds and guards realized something extraordinary. The woman moving steadily toward the palace was Elira. Her hair, though longer and streaked with the sun's golden light, still held the royal shade that marked her as a Lyrathian princess. Her eyes were the same deep blue as her mother's, but now they were sharper, wiser, and filled with a quiet strength that none in the kingdom had seen before. But Elira was not alone. On either side she held the hands of two small children. They looked human, with soft brown hair and bright, curious eyes. One was a boy, the other a girl. Both seemed unafraid of the crowd, walking confidently alongside the princess as if they belonged to the kingdom by right. The people gathered in the streets, gasping at the sight. Murmurs filled the air. How had Elira survived all these years? Who were these children? And why did they look so human, so ordinary in a world of magic and royal bloodlines? The queen, alerted immediately, rushed to the gates. Her robes flowed behind her, and her crown gleamed in the morning sun. Her hands trembled as she reached the steps of the palace. "Elira!" she called, her voice both hopeful and questioning. Elira stopped and looked up at her mother. A small, warm smile touched her lips. "Mother," she said softly, but with a strength that echoed across the courtyard. "I have returned." The queen's eyes filled with tears. She stepped forward, unsure whether to run into her daughter's arms or simply stand frozen in awe. You are alive," she whispered. "Yes, mother," Elira replied. Her gaze shifted to the two children, who now looked up at the queen with innocent curiosity. "And these are my children. They have waited as long as I have to come home." The crowd gasped. The queen's breath caught in her throat. "Children?" she repeated. "But how?" Elira shook her head gently. "It is a long story, one that cannot be told in a moment. But I promise, mother, everything will be explained." The guards, cautious but loyal, moved aside to allow Elira and her children to enter the palace. Courtiers whispered to each other, their curiosity almost unbearable. They had seen battles, storms, and strange visitors from other lands, but nothing like this. A princess lost for years had returned, with human children who seemed untouched by time or the harshness of the outside world. Inside the palace hall, Elira knelt before her mother. The children stayed close, holding her hands. "Tell me everything," the queen demanded, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger, worry, and relief. Elira took a deep breath. "I was taken from Lyrathia by beings from a distant star," she began. "They lived far beyond the boundaries of our world, in a place where the sky burns with colors we cannot imagine. At first I feared them, mother. But I learned their ways, and I learned something far greater, the strength of humans even in the harshest worlds." The queen listened, her hands gripping the edges of her chair. She had been prepared for many things: the return of her daughter alive, the possibility of political alliances, even rebellion. But this was beyond any expectation. "The children," Elira continued, her gaze resting lovingly on them, "were born on the journey. They are human in every way, though they carry a bond to me and to our royal line. They have learned the ways of survival, courage, and curiosity from both our worlds." The queen knelt beside Elira, touching the children's heads gently. They looked at her without fear. Their eyes were full of wonder, as if the palace was a new and exciting world to explore. "They are beautiful," the queen whispered. "And they are ours now," Elira nodded. "They belong here, mother, just as I do." Word of Elira's return spread quickly through Lyrathia. Citizens gathered in the streets to see the princess who had been lost for years. They stared at the children with fascination. Human children were rare in the kingdom's elite circles, and these two seemed ordinary yet extraordinary. Ordinary in appearance, but extraordinary in presence. Their courage, their calm, and their gentle curiosity drew smiles and admiration from everyone who saw them. Yet not everyone welcomed their return. A few nobles, jealous of the queen and wary of Elira's new influence, whispered that the princess might have changed too much, that the children were strange omens. But even they could not ignore the undeniable strength that Elira carried. Strength born of years surviving the unknown, and learning lessons no court could teach. That night, the palace was alive with celebration, but Elira remained quiet. She walked through the gardens with her children, showing them the familiar paths she had once loved as a child herself. "This is your home now," she said softly, letting the moonlight fall on their faces. "And it is a home that will grow stronger with every day we spend here together." The children looked up at her with wide eyes. "Do we get to explore?" the little boy asked. Elira smiled. "Yes," she replied. "We will explore, learn, and protect this kingdom together. But first we must be ready. The world beyond these walls is vast and sometimes dangerous. We must be strong, brave, and clever." Her daughter tugged at her sleeve. "Will people like us?" she asked. "They will," Elira said firmly, "because we are not just here to be liked. We are here to show them the courage of humans, the wisdom of our family, and the strength that comes from hope." As the night deepened, the queen stood on her balcony, looking at the stars. She remembered the day Elira had disappeared, thinking she might never see her again. And now there she was, not as the child she had lost, but as a woman shaped by unknown worlds, holding hands with two children who symbolized the unity of human courage and royal resilience. The kingdom of Lyrathia would never be the same again. And as the queen watched her daughter and grandchildren laugh under the silver light of the moon, she realized one truth above all. Hope had returned, and with it, the future of the kingdom had grown brighter than ever before. The first step of Elira's journey back home had begun, but everyone knew it was only the beginning. Strange worlds, human courage, and royal destiny would all intertwine to shape the days ahead. And in the heart of the palace, the princess, her children, and the queen embraced the moment, a moment that promised adventure, discovery, and the unshakable spirit of humanity that could thrive even in the farthest reaches of the universe. The palace was quiet that morning, yet alive with anticipation. Courtiers whispered among themselves, curious to hear the tale that Princess Elira had promised. The queen arranged a grand hall, filled with light from tall arched windows where Elira could speak freely. The two children sat beside her, holding her hands, their wide eyes reflecting both excitement and calm understanding. Queen Erlen's gaze was fixed on her daughter. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice steady but filled with the weight of years. "Where have you been all this time?" Elira took a deep breath. "Mother, I was taken far from our world, to a place no Lyrathian has ever seen." Her eyes glimmered as she recalled the journey. "I was captured by beings from a distant star. They were powerful, intelligent, and at first very frightening. But I learned their ways and discovered a truth that changed everything, that humans, even ordinary humans, can survive and thrive in any world." The courtiers leaned forward, their curiosity growing. A few noble women gasped. The children whispered to each other, but Elira gently placed her hand on each of their heads, reminding them to stay calm. "I was taken to a planet beyond the stars, a place of mountains taller than our highest towers, skies painted in colors I cannot describe, and creatures unlike any we know," Elira continued. "At first I feared I would never return, but then I met humans. Humans like you, Mother, but stranded far from home. They had been there for years, surviving without any help from their worlds." The queen's brow furrowed. "Humans, stranded so far away?" "Yes," Elira said. "They taught me to think differently, to see dangers as challenges, and to use courage and creativity as our greatest weapons. It was not magic that saved us, but the human mind, cleverness, persistence, and hope." The hall fell silent. Even the servants stopped their work to listen. No one had imagined that humanity's strength could reach so far, even into the vastness of space. Elira paused, looking down at the children. And then, the children were born. She smiled softly. They are human, yes, but they carry both the spirit of our people and the lessons I learned on that planet. They learned survival, courage, and wisdom before they even knew our language. The Queen's eyes widened. Children. Born there? On a world so dangerous? Yes, Elira said. Their father was a human who had been stranded there just like the others. We worked together to survive, and they were born amid trials and dangers that tested every skill we had. One of the children, a boy named Kale, looked up at the Queen. Mother, he said softly, I want to help protect the kingdom too. Queen Erlen's heart melted. You already are helping, little one. You survived. That is courage beyond measure. Elira nodded, then continued her story. The planet was unlike anything you can imagine. The forests were alive with creatures that could move without making a sound, predators that could see our thoughts, and storms that could crush mountains. The humans taught me how to build shelters that could withstand storms, how to read signs in the land to find safe paths, and how to defend ourselves with strategy, not just strength. A young court scribe furiously wrote down every word. Even the seasoned generals of the kingdom listened closely. They had seen battles, but Elira's tale was something entirely different. A story of survival where intelligence and human courage mattered more than swords and shields. The children, Elira continued, learned everything I could teach them about survival and kindness. They learned to respect the creatures of that world, to study the skies, and to anticipate dangers before they arrived. They became brave, smart, and curious. The humans who lived there said it was unusual. They had never seen children adapt so quickly to the challenges of the universe. One of the courtiers whispered to another, Imagine children surviving in such a place. The princess has returned stronger than we ever imagined. Elira smiled faintly, remembering the nights spent teaching Kale and his sister. Lyra. We lived in caves carved into the mountains at first, then built homes from the strange metals and stones of that world. The humans taught me how to combine materials to make tools, weapons, and even machines that could travel long distances. It was not easy, but every challenge made us stronger. Every night we dreamed of home, and every morning we used that dream to find courage. The Queen's voice shook slightly. And you returned now? With them? After all this time? Yes, Mother, Elira said. We learned everything we could, but we never stopped thinking of Lyrathia. We waited, prepared, and hoped. The children are ready now, and so am I. We came back because the kingdom needs more than hope. It needs courage, wisdom, and the reminder that humans can face any challenge and survive. The hall remained silent for a moment, the weight of Elira's words settling on everyone present. The humans in the room understood the message immediately. Survival was not about power, but about intelligence, bravery, and teamwork. Even those who had doubted the return of the princess felt a spark of admiration. Elira continued, During our years away, we faced creatures that could crush buildings with a single strike. Storms that turned the sky into fire, and lands that could swallow entire villages. And yet we endured. Humans endure. Humans find ways when there are none. Humans create paths where none exist. That is what kept us alive, and that is why we returned. Kale raised his hand timidly. Did you ever get scared? He asked. Elira looked down at him, her eyes soft. Yes, every day. But fear is not weakness. It is a signal. Fear tells you where danger is, and then courage tells you what to do about it. That is how humans survive where others cannot. Lyra, his sister, spoke next. And we learned from everyone, right? Elira nodded. Yes. We learned from humans who had no hope and from humans who believed in hope. We learned that even the smallest action can save a life, and that the bond between people, love, trust, and teamwork, is stronger than any weapon. The Queen took a deep breath. Elira, I am proud of you. You and these children have survived more than anyone in the kingdom could imagine. And yet you returned, not just for yourselves, but for all of us. Elira smiled, a quiet warmth shining in her eyes. We returned to show everyone what humans can do. That even in the darkest places, we can find courage, wisdom, and hope. That is the lesson we bring, Mother. Not just for the royal family, but for the whole kingdom. The children stood proudly beside her, as if they understood the magnitude of her words. Kale's eyes sparkled with determination, and Lyra's face was calm yet full of quiet strength. The Queen realized that they were not just survivors. They were teachers in their own right, symbols of resilience and human brilliance. The hall was filled with a sense of awe. Courtiers, generals, and servants alike whispered in amazement. Elira's story was more than a tale of survival. It was a lesson in courage, intelligence, and the power of the human spirit. As the day went on, Elira walked through the palace gardens with the children. She showed them the fountains, the trees, and the paths she had loved as a child. "This is your home now," she said softly, "and it will be a place where you can grow, explore, and protect. But always remember what you have learned. Courage, intelligence, and teamwork will guide you no matter what dangers come." Kyle nodded. "We will remember, Mother," Lyra smiled. "And we will be brave." Elira embraced them both. "Good, because the universe is vast and there will be challenges. But humans can always find a way." The Queen watched them, her heart filled with hope. She realized that the return of her daughter and the arrival of these children marked a new chapter for the kingdom, a chapter where human courage and intelligence could lead them through anything. And as the sun set over the palace, casting golden light across the gardens, Elira knew that their journey had only begun. The lessons of survival, the bond of family, and the strength of humans would guide them forward into a future full of hope, courage, and the promise of adventures yet to come. The kingdom of Lyrathia had celebrated Elira's return for days. Markets were full of laughter, palace halls echoed with stories of her survival, and the children ran through the gardens with joy. Yet beneath the smiles, a quiet unease lingered. Elira knew the universe was vast and unpredictable. Danger had followed her before, and she feared it might follow her again. It began with small signs. Scouts from the outer lands returned with strange reports. Massive shadows crossing the skies, unfamiliar ships that moved too fast to be ordinary, and strange signals intercepted by the palace communication towers. The palace generals dismissed the warnings at first. "The kingdom is strong," they said. No outsiders would dare attack now. But Elira's sharp eyes caught patterns they could not see. She had learned long ago that threats could be subtle, growing unseen until it was too late. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the eastern cliffs, Elira gathered the Queen and her trusted advisors in the War Council Hall. "They are coming," she said quietly but firmly. "The ones who captured me years ago. They have followed me, and they will reach Lyrathia soon." The room went silent. The Queen's hand trembled slightly as she placed it on the edge of the table. "You mean aliens?" she whispered. "Yes," Elira confirmed. "They are not like any we have faced. Their technology is advanced and their tactics are unpredictable. But they underestimate one thing: the power of humans, our courage, and our ability to think beyond the obvious." A general leaned forward. "Princess, how can we defend against such forces? Our armies are strong, but their ships, they can destroy entire cities in hours." Elira smiled faintly, her mind already working through plans she had formed in exile. "It is not strength alone that will protect us. It is strategy, intelligence, and unity. We will use every advantage we have: knowledge of the land, creativity, and the unpredictability of human thinking." The Queen studied her daughter. "Do you truly believe we can survive?" Elira nodded. "I have seen humans survive on worlds that should have killed them. I have seen humans outsmart creatures that could crush mountains. We can survive, and we will." The council began planning immediately. Elira suggested using unconventional tactics learned from her human companions during the years of exile. They trained soldiers to move silently through forests, to set traps that used the enemy's strength against them, and to observe patterns in alien technology before striking. The children, Kale and Lyra, watched quietly, absorbing every lesson. Though young, they displayed remarkable understanding of the strategies being discussed. Elira often reminded the advisors, "Do not underestimate them. Courage and cleverness come in all ages." At night, Elira took the children to the palace balcony. The stars were bright, and the wind carried the scent of the ocean. "They are coming," she said, her voice calm but firm. "But do not fear. Humans survive even against impossible odds, and we will show them why." Kale tightened his small fist. "I want to help," he said. "You will," Elira replied. "You and Lyra will help in ways that others cannot imagine. Even now your minds are sharp and your hearts are brave. That is a power many soldiers lack." Days passed, and the scouts' reports grew more alarming. Alien ships appeared on the horizon, vast and dark, their surfaces reflecting the sun like black mirrors. The people of Lyrathia looked up in awe and fear, but Illyra did not falter. She had survived worse worlds and impossible challenges. She knew that human ingenuity could turn the tide even in the most desperate situations. The queen walked beside Illyra as they observed the approaching fleet. "Do you think they will attack immediately?" she asked. "They may try," Illyra said. "But humans are unpredictable. We will use that to our advantage. We will protect the kingdom not with blind power, but with thought, courage, and strategy. That is something no alien can anticipate." The army of Lyrathia began preparation under Illyra's guidance. Soldiers were trained in new tactics, moving quietly through forests to flank enemies, creating false signals to mislead the raiders, and using knowledge of the land to turn hills, rivers, and valleys into natural defenses. Artisans crafted clever machines that could distract or disable alien ships without engaging in direct combat. Every member of the kingdom, from generals to scouts, worked together, inspired by Illyra's words and her example. The children, though young, contributed in small but critical ways. Kyle had an uncanny ability to notice patterns in the enemy movements, while Lyra discovered weaknesses in their machines that adults had overlooked. Illyra encouraged them, reminding the council, "Even the smallest mind, guided by courage and intelligence, can change the outcome of battle." At night, the family huddled together in the palace's observation tower. The children whispered questions about the aliens, about strategy, and about survival. Illyra answered each one patiently, teaching them lessons of observation, logic, and courage. "Fear is natural," she said softly, "but courage is knowing what must be done despite fear. That is what humans excel at. That is why we survive." As the alien fleet drew closer, Illyra organized scouts to track their approach. The ships were unlike anything seen before, moving silently through the sky, emitting strange energy pulses that disrupted conventional sensors. But Illyra's experience on foreign worlds allowed her to predict their movements. "They rely on technology," she told the generals. "But technology cannot anticipate human creativity. We will use that. We will be cleverer, faster, and more unpredictable." The queen watched her daughter with growing admiration. "You have changed, Illyra," she said quietly. "Not just grown stronger, but wiser. And yet the courage of humans is at the heart of it all." Illyra nodded. "Yes, mother. That is why I returned. Not just for myself, but to remind everyone, human courage, intelligence, and unity are the greatest strengths any kingdom can have." When the day of confrontation finally arrived, the citizens of Lyrathia watched from a distance. The alien ships hovered above, casting shadows over the mountains and valleys. The kingdom's soldiers stood ready, their eyes filled with determination. But Illyra was calm. She had seen worlds filled with dangers far greater, yet humans had survived. She trusted that same strength now, within the people of her home. The children stood beside her, Kale clutching her hand, and Lyra watching the skies with quiet determination. "Remember what I taught you," Illyra whispered. "Observe, learn, and act. Courage is as much about thinking as it is about fighting." As the first alien ships descended toward the outskirts of Lyrathia, Illyra gave her orders. Soldiers moved with precision, setting clever traps, sending misleading signals, and using every natural feature of the land to their advantage. The alien forces, confident in their superior technology, were surprised at the adaptability and ingenuity of humans. For the first time, they faced an enemy that could think differently, act unpredictably, and survive against impossible odds. Even the children contributed, offering insights that adults might have dismissed. Illyra smiled at their cleverness. "See, mother," she said, watching Kale point out a hidden weakness in the enemy formation. "Humans can do the extraordinary no matter their age. Courage and intelligence know no bounds." As the sun set, casting golden light across the battlefield, Illyra knew that this was only the beginning. The aliens would not easily give up, but the kingdom of Lyrathia had a secret weapon, the indomitable human spirit. And with humans and royals united, no force in the universe could strike without facing the brilliance and courage that defined their people. The queen placed her hand on Illyra's shoulder. "You have taught us more than strategy," she said. "You have shown us the heart of humanity, and that heart will guide us through any storm." Illyra nodded, holding her children close. The horizon glowed with the approaching alien fleet, but the palace, the kingdom, and its people stood ready, not just with weapons, but with courage, intelligence, and hope. The coming battle would be fierce, but humans Illyra knew could endure, adapt, and prevail. And in the quiet moments before the conflict began, she whispered to the children, "Remember, we survive because we think, because we care, and because we never give up. That is what humans do." The night settled over Lyrathia, filled with tension and anticipation. The alien threat loomed large, but so did the courage of a princess who had survived the stars and the human children who would help lead the kingdom into the battles to come. Together, they would face the unknown and prove that human ingenuity and bravery could shine even against the darkness of the universe. The morning sky over Lyrathia was painted with shades of orange and gold, but the beauty of the sunrise did little to ease the tension in the kingdom. The alien fleet that had shadowed Illyra's return hovered above the mountains, their dark hulls reflecting the sunlight in eerie patterns. Citizens watched from a safe distance, fear and hope intermingling in their hearts. Soldiers lined the hills and valleys, their armor polished, weapons ready, and spirits bolstered by Illyra's calm determination. Illyra stood atop the highest palace tower, her cape flowing in the morning wind. Beside her, Kale and Lyra gripped her hands tightly, their eyes shining with excitement and courage. "Today," she said softly, "we show them what humans can do. Not with brute force alone, but with courage, intelligence, and teamwork. Remember your training. Observe, think, and act. That is how humans survive where others fail." The queen, standing beside her daughter, nodded. "You have already taught us so much, Illyra. Today your lessons will guide us all." As the alien ships descended, the humans of Lyrathia remained poised. Illyra had organized every detail. Soldiers moved through hidden valleys, scouts prepared traps, and artisans had crafted clever machines designed to disable enemy systems. The aliens expected fear. They expected chaos. Instead, they faced strategy, unity, and the unpredictable brilliance of humans. The first wave of attackers struck swiftly, landing near the northern hills. Their machines roared, sending tremors through the ground, yet the humans responded with precision. Soldiers moved silently through forests, using narrow passes to flank the invaders. Hidden catapults launched nets that entangled alien devices, while decoys led others into carefully prepared traps. Every action was deliberate, intelligent, and coordinated, the mark of a people who relied not on raw strength alone, but on their ability to think. Kale pointed toward a large ship hovering over the eastern valley. "That one is vulnerable here," he said, noticing a weak joint in its armor that adults had missed. Illyra smiled. "Good eye. Lead me there." Together they directed a small team to exploit the weakness, disabling the ship without firing a single shot. Lyra helped coordinate signals between units, guiding soldiers to anticipate alien movements before they happened. The queen watched in astonishment, realizing that the children's intelligence and courage were as vital to the battle as any weapon. The aliens quickly realized that the humans were not behaving as expected. Their superior technology could destroy villages in hours, yet Lyrathia's defenders moved with agility and creativity. Every attempt to advance was met with clever counters, mines that created illusions, traps that used the enemy's own weight against them, and soldiers who acted unpredictably. Illyra's experience from her years in exile gave her an advantage the aliens had not anticipated. She knew their patterns before they acted, and she guided her people to strike at the right moments. Despite their skill, the battle was not easy. Alien machines fired powerful energy blasts, and their soldiers were relentless. Explosions shook the ground, smoke rose in dark plumes, and the screams of battle echoed across the hills. Yet the humans remained focused. They moved with intelligence, courage, and trust in one another. No soldier acted alone. Every move was coordinated, every risk calculated, and every life valued. At one point, a massive alien walker approached the palace gates. Its enormous legs crushed trees and rocks with ease. The humans hesitated for a moment, but Illyra did not falter. She shouted instructions, and a team of engineers deployed a series of pulleys and weighted traps. The walker stumbled, confused by the unconventional tactics. Lyra pointed out a control panel exposed by the stumble, and Kale, with guidance from Illyra, led a small squad to disable it. Within minutes, the walker was neutralized, proving that cleverness could triumph over brute force. The queen watched, awestruck. "I have never seen anything like this," she murmured. "Human courage and intelligence. It is extraordinary," Illyra nodded. "It is the heart of our people. We survive because we think, because we adapt, and because we never give up. That is why humans succeed where others fail. The battle continued throughout the day, with humans using the landscape, their ingenuity, and unbreakable teamwork to counter every alien advance. Soldiers moved through forests to ambush enemy patrols. Hidden mechanisms caused chaos among alien formations, and scouts relayed information that allowed the humans to stay one step ahead. The alien commanders grew frustrated, unable to predict the actions of those they considered weak or inferior. The children proved to be more than observers. Kale noticed patterns in the alien fleet's movements, predicting where reinforcements would arrive, while Lyra guided the soldiers to exploit the terrain effectively. At one point, a group of alien flyers tried to circle behind the palace, intending to attack from an unexpected angle. Lyra's sharp observation spotted them early. She led a team of archers and engineers to intercept the threat, turning what could have been a devastating attack into a victory. Lyra could feel the shift in the battle. The aliens were powerful, yes, but they lacked something the humans possessed: creativity, adaptability, and courage under pressure. Every small action, every clever tactic, and every brave choice strengthened the resolve of the kingdom's defenders. The people of Lyrathia began to believe that victory was not impossible, that their ingenuity and courage could overcome even the most advanced foes. As the sun began to set, the final stage of the battle arrived. The largest alien ship, a towering vessel bristling with energy weapons, approached the city. It seemed unstoppable, its size dwarfing the palace itself, but Lyra had anticipated it. She directed her soldiers to use every trick at their disposal: smokescreens, reflective surfaces to confuse targeting sensors, and coordinated attacks to exploit weak points in the alien technology. Kale and Lyra worked alongside their mother, pointing out vulnerabilities and guiding units to act with precision. "There," Kyle shouted, noticing a small panel exposed on the ship's hull. "That's the control unit." Illyra acted immediately.
Teams Alpha and Beta move to that position now.
The squads advanced swiftly, avoiding energy blasts and using terrain for cover. Within minutes, the panels were damaged, causing the alien ship to falter. Engineers directed by Illyra disabled its systems completely, and the ship collapsed, stunned and immobilized. The alien fleet, witnessing the fall of their largest vessel, hesitated. Their confidence shattered. They attempted to regroup, but the humans pressed forward, using strategy, intelligence, and courage to outmaneuver them at every turn. By nightfall, the aliens were retreating, their forces scattered and defeated. Lyrathia had survived, not because of superior firepower, but because of human ingenuity, courage, and unity. The queen descended from the palace tower, her face radiant with pride. She embraced Illyra and the children. "You have done what I never imagined possible," she said. "You and these children have shown the kingdom that human courage and intelligence can triumph over any threat." Illyra smiled, holding Kale and Lyra close.
"It is not just us," she said.
"It is every soldier, every scout, every citizen who believed in what humans can do. We survived because we thought, because we acted, and because we never gave up. That is the strength of humans: courage, intelligence, and heart." The children beamed, knowing they had contributed to the kingdom's survival. Their laughter rang through the palace gardens as soldiers celebrated their hard-won victory. Illyra watched them, proud not only of her children but of the entire kingdom. That night, as the stars appeared above Lyrathia, the queen walked alongside Illyra. "You have returned with more than just a story," she said softly. "You have brought hope, courage, and proof that humans can survive anywhere, even against impossible odds." Illyra nodded. "And this is just the beginning, Mother. Humans will continue to face challenges, in this kingdom and beyond. But if we remember what we have learned today, that courage and intelligence are stronger than any weapon, then there is nothing we cannot overcome." The kingdom of Lyrathia had survived the greatest threat it had ever faced, not through magic or overwhelming power, but through the creativity, courage, and unity of its people. And as the queen and her daughter stood together looking at the city below, they knew that a new era had begun, an era defined by human ingenuity, bravery, and hope that could shine even in the darkest corners of the universe. The battle had ended. The alien fleet had retreated beyond the horizon, their massive ships disappearing into the dark stretches of space. The kingdom of Lyrathia, though shaken and worn, had survived. Its people were tired but proud, their hearts filled with a newfound sense of hope and unity. Illyra stood atop the palace balcony, looking out over the city that had been saved not by magic, not by overwhelming force, but by the courage, intelligence, and ingenuity of humans. Kale and Lyra stood beside her, holding her hands tightly. "We did it," Kale whispered, his eyes wide with awe as he watched the citizens cheer below. "Yes," Illyra replied softly, "we did it together. Every person in this kingdom played a role, and today we proved that humans, ordinary humans, can do extraordinary things." The queen joined them, her robes flowing in the gentle breeze. She embraced her daughter and the children, her eyes glistening with tears. "Illyra," she said, "you have returned not just as my daughter, but as a symbol of hope. You and these children have shown the kingdom what humans are capable of. Courage, intelligence, and heart." Illyra smiled, squeezing the hands of Kale and Lyra. "It is the heart of humans that carries us through the greatest challenges, Mother. That is why we survive, why we endure, and why we triumph when others may fail." The citizens of Lyrathia celebrated for days, filling the streets with music, laughter, and stories of bravery. The soldiers returned from the battlefield exhausted but triumphant. They spoke of clever strategies, daring rescues, and the unexpected contributions of the children, whose observations and quick thinking had helped turn the tide of battle. Everywhere there was a renewed belief in human potential. Illyra and her children walked through the city, greeting people who had come to see them. Kale asked questions about the city's defenses and the palace's design, his curiosity never ending. Lyra examined the gardens and fountains, noting patterns in their construction and imagining ways they could be improved. Illyra encouraged their curiosity, reminding them that intelligence and creativity were as important as bravery. The queen watched them and spoke softly. "These children, they are remarkable, not just because of what they did in battle, but because they think, observe, and act with courage beyond their years." "Yes, Mother," Illyra replied. "They are the future of the kingdom, and they are proof that humans, no matter their age or background, have the power to shape the world." In the palace, Illyra convened a council to discuss the future of Lyrathia. She spoke of new strategies to protect the kingdom, not with fear, but with preparedness and intelligence. Engineers and artisans worked to develop tools and devices inspired by the lessons Illyra had learned during her years away. Soldiers trained in tactics that emphasized creativity, observation, and teamwork rather than sheer strength. Illyra reminded everyone that human ingenuity was their greatest weapon, and she encouraged the children to take part in planning and learning. Kale and Lyra eagerly participated, offering ideas and insights that surprised even the most experienced advisors. Kale suggested a network of observation towers to watch for future threats, while Lyra designed new communication methods to share information quickly across the kingdom. Their contributions were celebrated, and the people of Lyrathia began to see that courage and intelligence were not limited by age or experience. They could come from anyone willing to observe, learn, and act. As weeks passed, Illyra worked to strengthen bonds between humans and royals. Emphasizing the importance of unity and shared purpose, she encouraged citizens to share their ideas, innovations, and courage, fostering a culture where intelligence and creativity were valued as much as tradition and lineage. Slowly, the kingdom transformed into a place where human potential was recognized and celebrated at every level. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, Illyra walked with the queen through the palace gardens. The children ran ahead, laughing and exploring every corner of the garden as if it were a new world to discover. "Mother," Illyra said, "we have survived the greatest threat our kingdom has faced, but survival is only the beginning. Now we can build a future where courage, intelligence, and human potential guide our people." The queen nodded. "And you have shown everyone that even in the darkest times, hope can prevail. You have not only returned, Illyra, but you have changed the kingdom forever." Illyra smiled, watching Kale and Lyra play near the fountain. "The future is bright, Mother. With humans leading with courage and intelligence, nothing can stop us. And these children, they will carry the lessons of today into the generations to come." As the stars began to twinkle above Lyrathia, the citizens celebrated a new era. The kingdom had faced a threat that seemed insurmountable, yet human ingenuity, teamwork, and courage had prevailed. Illyra's story became a legend, told and retold, inspiring all who heard it. The children, symbols of resilience and potential, grew in the palace surrounded by love, knowledge, and the spirit of humanity. The queen watched as Elira taught Kyle and Lyra about observation, strategy, and the importance of courage in everyday life. Humans can achieve anything when they use their minds, hearts, and courage together, Elira said. The children listened intently, understanding that bravery was more than fighting. It was thinking, learning, and helping others. In the months that followed, Lyrathia flourished. Markets were full, gardens bloomed, and the people thrived under a renewed sense of purpose. Soldiers trained not only for battle but to think creatively. Engineers designed innovative tools, and citizens learned that their intelligence and courage were as important as any weapon. The kingdom had become stronger than ever, united by human spirit and determination. Elira often took walks with the children through the palace corridors and gardens, teaching them lessons of leadership, creativity, and empathy. Remember, she told them, true strength comes from courage, intelligence, and the will to help others. That is what makes humans special. That is what makes our kingdom safe and strong. Kale nodded, determination shining in his eyes. We will remember, Mother. We will do our best, Lyra smiled, and we will help the kingdom just like you taught us. Elira embraced them both. Good, that is the heart of humanity, and that heart will guide this kingdom for generations. The queen joined them, looking out over the city as lights twinkled in the night. Elira, she said softly, you have given us more than victory. You have given us hope, courage, and the knowledge that humans can overcome any challenge. You have shown us a new era, one where intelligence, courage, and unity guide our kingdom. Elira nodded, holding Kale and Lyra's hands. Yes, Mother, and together we will continue to grow stronger. Humans will face challenges, yes, but we will survive, adapt, and thrive. That is who we are. That is what makes our people extraordinary. The children laughed as they chased fireflies in the gardens, their joy echoing through the palace walls. Elira watched them, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. The kingdom was safe, her family reunited, and the lessons of survival and courage had taken root in the hearts of all. Lyrathia had entered a new era, one defined by human potential, bravery, and hope that no force in the universe could destroy. And as Elira looked up at the stars, she knew that the story of humans, of courage and intelligence, would continue. The princess had returned. The children had grown with lessons of survival and bravery, and the kingdom was stronger than ever. The universe might be vast and unpredictable, but the human spirit, once proven, could shine across any darkness. In the quiet moments of night, Elira whispered to Kale and Lyra, remember always, humans survive because we think, we care, and we never give up. That is our power. That is our gift. And that will guide Lyrathia for all time. The children nodded, their hearts full of determination and hope. Together with their mother, they looked toward a future bright with possibility, courage, and the promise that humans, ordinary yet extraordinary, would always find a way. The kingdom of Lyrathia, united and strong, celebrated not just a victory, but a new beginning, a future where courage, intelligence, and the human spirit would lead them to endless adventures, achievements, and the enduring light of hope.